All right. Okay, what you see in front of you is the game board for Lyssan. As I said before, this game board looks nothing like the finalized game board, but this is like kind of the print and play version, if you will. And as always, as I said before, I invite you to go to the website and check out the actual one, because the actual one looks really cool. I mean, this one works perfectly, and I kind of like it in a way. But a lot of people aren't probably going to like this just because of just how abstract it is, and so I can understand that. But quick overview, each one of these is a location on the board, and they have little names, if you will, of like provinces, and the different colors determine what resources you gain by controlling that. The yellow, you receive coins or money. The brown, you receive recruits, manpower, and the green, you receive influence. Money obviously is just little chits for money. I gotta be honest, when I played, I just got rid of these and used poker chips. These are way too tiny for my big, giant, clumsy hands. I did like these little dolls, however, as an homage to Scott Nicholson. These little dolls for your recruits, I thought these were actually pretty cool. But influence actually isn't a little cardboard chit or anything like that. Influence is actually this deck of cards, the influence cards, and I'll explain those here in just a little bit. To begin the game, very first thing you have to do, is determine if you're playing with 3 people, you have 6 of these cards, and if you have 4 people, you have 5 of these cards. And these are the trophy cards. And you shuffle these up, there's obviously more. And these are the victory conditions for the game. So when you begin the game, you take the top 5 cards, and you turn the first one over, and you can see here, military coup trophy. This trophy is claimed by the player who controls the most knights on the board. Now, you just put that up here, and that kind of just lets everybody know that that's the very first trophy. After the first turn of the game, the person that has the most knights on the board is going to claim that trophy. The person who claims 2 of these cards is the winner of the game. So that's your first goal. That's what you're going to be shooting for and trying to reach. To begin the game, everybody plays a certain number of units out on the board. You begin with castle, knights, nobles, priests, and spies. Knights are these little swords, nobles, those, little castle, obviously. This little hooked stick is a priest, and this mask is a spy. Now, each one of those units has different powers. It's important to note that only castles, nobles, and knights can actually control an area. So in order to get your resources out of the area, one of those 3 types of units has to be in that spot to control it and gain it. The priests and spies do other things. They go and corrupt things and are your treachery, if you will. And the one nice thing about that is that unlike knights and nobles who can kill each other, knights and nobles can't actually kill priests and spies. They just don't have that ability. They just, obviously, because, I don't know, you can't walk around and hack a priest to death, and spies are just hiding, so you aren't able to do that. But to begin the game, you're placing your units, and I'm not going to go through that process, but each person places the same number of units on the board. Each person gets 4 of these influence cards, and then each person gets to decide if they want to spend these influence cards. Now, influence cards come in 3 different varieties. They come in what's called a surprise. This is a card that says, examine an unrevealed trophy card. So in other words, if you played this card and paid the cost to play it, you'd be able to look at one of the unrevealed trophy cards, so you'd know what was coming up and have a glimpse at the future, if you will. You'll notice up here in the top corner, you can see that it says 1. That's the cost of this particular card. To play this card, you have to discard one other influence card to use this card. And that's a surprise card. Other cards are called courtier cards, or courtier, or whatever. And like, you know, this is 0, so it's free. But once per turn, you may take a debt to resolve a shame, even after reaching or passing the normal debt limit. Now, I'll explain debt in just a moment. But if you notice, this one's 0. It doesn't cost you anything. And because it's a courtier card, you just put this down in front of you. And it's an ongoing effect, whereas a surprise card is just played once. The final card is, this card. And there's more of these, but the Von Hornbergs. Now, you control the brown knights and nobles, higher 1 at no cost. You know, so it costs 3. You place this card in front of you, and you gain access to more units. The idea is that you're a ruler in, you know, and if you're familiar with the books or the TV series, A Game of Thrones, you're vying for control of the world, or this nation, if you will. And you have these different houses, these different noble families. And if you have those cards, you can use your influence to get them over to your side, and gives you access to more power, sending out more of your knights and nobles, whatever they give you, in order to have more influence and more power on the board. Now, after everybody's done playing the influence cards they wish to play, you determine turn order. Turn order is determined by the number of influence cards that you have in your hand. If you have a lot of influence cards in your hand, you're going to go later. If you have less, you're going to go earlier. Basically, that's thematically, it's like if you have influence cards, it means that your ruler is kept at home, dealing with nobles and whatever, spreading your influence, if you will. And then if you have less, that means you're out on the field. You're not actually stuck in your throne room dealing with people. Game-wise, mechanic-wise, basically holding onto influence cards so you can use them at opportune moments while you're playing the game. They don't want to make it so you go first and also have all these extra abilities. So mechanic-wise, if you have cards in your hand, you go later in the round. Plus, later on, if you ever get debt cards, the debt cards count against the cards in your hand as well. And so, obviously, when you're taking debts to resolve shame, something I'll explain in a moment, you know, there's a bit to that as well. So once everybody's played all their influence cards and everybody's played out their pieces on the board, you actually do turn over the next trophy card. And this one will not be awarded the next year. Because you award the trophy cards in the spring of the year, but the very first time you don't. So you turn the next one over and it says the Puppet Master Trophy. The player who controls the most forest provinces claims this trophy. So now you have 2 available, and you have these that can't be seen, and you have not only what you can earn for a card at the end of this full turn, this full year, but also you know what the next one's going to be. And so you can kind of plan ahead, if you will. Okay, I gotta make sure I have knights, but I also gotta make sure I have control of those green provinces, because I want that card as well. And now you get into the thick of it. After you determine the turn order, the person who goes first takes all of their actions. And the next person takes all of their actions, the next person takes all their actions, and so on and so forth. This isn't a situation where the first player takes, you know, I'm going to move this guy here, the next person says, I'm going to move this guy here, and so on and so forth. You just do everything that you have available to you. Now, when the first turn comes around, not much is going to happen just as far as a lot of the part of the turn, because you have to ready agents. You'll notice that once you've used something, if you can tell, there's like a checkerboard mark. And so you'll have, at the beginning of your turn, you'll have exhausted people, and you turn them over, meaning you've readied them. And then you have to resolve shame. Now, I'll explain shame. Shame is either agents that have been killed off. So like if your knight gets killed, you place this in front of you, saying that this person is dead. And if you lose knights, if you lose priests and nobles and castles and everything, those are all shame. And you have to resolve that. You have to get rid of every single point of your shame to be able to actually continue the game. If you can't do it, you are out of the game, and you basically have to sit by the sidelines and watch the game be finished. To resolve shame, you either have to get rid of influence cards for each point of shame that you have. You have to give up another one of your units. Basically, you're so shamed that people leave your following and go off and